Hi, I'm Gary Null. Welcome to our program. For those of you who have not seen this program before, we deal with health and nutrition subjects. In fact, anything that can improve the quality of our lives. Now, as you will see, some of our programs are done in studio before a live audience. However, frequently we go out on the road. We go all over the world, taking our camera crew to bring you the latest advances, the most interesting speakers, the people who can impart knowledge that can change your life. Today, we're out on the road again. In fact, for the next 4 weeks, you're going to see us all over the place. You're going to find out about how to, well, recolor your hair naturally, how to grow hair if it's been thinning or balding, how to get rid of wrinkles without surgery, even without facial isometrics, how, in effect, by changing your diet, lifestyle, and behavior, to knock years off your aging process, and in the process, lessen disease. And wouldn't it be nice to live without arthritis and diabetes and heart disease? So join us now as we go on the road for the next 4 weeks on reversing the aging process naturally.
I feel my life is just beginning because now I don't have to go to work. I don't have the responsibility of anything but myself.
I'm going to be able to do things when I'm 70 and 80 years old that I didn't think were possible. I think it really is possible to move very quickly and not be hunched over and not to act like someone who's 70 or 80. You can be someone who's 40 or 50 when you're 70 or 80.
I have a 21-year-old daughter, and her friends just can't believe that I'm her mother half the time. They, even people I've seen that I used to work with 10 years ago say I look younger than I did when I worked with them.
The primary causes of premature aging are a collection of causes that add up to your toxic load. And your toxic load consists of things that your body's exposed to in terms of environmentally as well as chemically, biochemically. Your body's exposed to things in the environment, inhalants, ragweed pollen molds and dust and other chemicals, as well as there's a whole host of chemicals that we're ingesting on a daily basis, foods and chemicals, and more importantly, chemicals in our foods. Our body is under stress, and as a result, the ability to keep up with that stress and repair adds to aging. The ability to replace vitamin and nutrient deficit has to do with your ability to put off the aging process or to keep up with repair and defense.
I've decided to start thinking about the aging process at my age, which is 36, and not wait until I'm already old and diminished in my capacity and processing disease. I notice a lot of people don't think about the future at my age, and they continue in a lifestyle that isn't healthy. And if you look down the road, you see what kind of consequences that brings.
We've taken the idea that being overweight, having high blood pressure and arthritis, because so many people have these 20 or 30 different illnesses, they're no longer illnesses, just normal aging. If you go in, you say, doctor, I'm 55 and I have high blood pressure, I have high cholesterol, high triglycerides, my digestion's a wreck, I have arthritis. The doctor will say, well, that's normal for 55. What do you expect, right? You say, but doctor, can I reverse this? Well, no, you can't reverse it. That's wrong. You can.
I have 3 kids. One of them is 21, 16, and 14. They're very active. And one of the things I did when they were young, we'll go out to the beaches, we have camping, we do sports together, skiing and so on. And all of a sudden, when I was getting 50s, well, Dad, how you doing? Trailing behind. I had problems because I couldn't hold my ski poles because I had carpal tunnel syndromes. I was afraid to fall down and hurt myself. In fact, I would go to the church. And in church, you have to shake hands with people. I'll look at the guy next to me. If the guy's too big, I would give him my left hand. Look kind of funny, Well, look at me now. See this is my hands. And it's better than it has ever been before.
If people are in ideal health, I really feel they can expect to live between 100 and 120 years old. Certainly being in good health up to and past the age of 100. This is called rectangularizing the aging curve, staying healthy right up until the end of the maximum lifespan.
I had always worked out at a gym for years, and I excused myself because I couldn't do the jumping when everyone else did because I was older, which is, understand. I now jump. And it's very exciting for me. I feel good. I hope this will be my way of life from now on.
You want to have optimal energy. This is, to me, very, very fundamental of not even medical. This is just philosophy. Go to college and discuss, well, what's important. To me, energy is very high up on the list of what's important.
I have an arthritic condition. That's the study group that I'm in. And as a result of having arthritis, which is in my hip, I basically stopped playing basketball and stopped doing a lot of physical activities. And since being in the study group and taking the supplements and watching my diet, I'm able to start getting back into exercising and feel like I'm getting more control of my life.
In America today, we have an epidemic of joint disease. I would say the majority of persons in America over the age of 60 have early or moderate or late osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is called a wear and tear disease of the joints. This is nonsense because it is ultimately a deficiency disease. It is a problem that the joint is not being nourished adequately. It is not just wear and tear on the joint. That is a simplistic kind of falderall that's bandied about because it sounds nice. Oh, wear and tear, the joints wear out like a car. Yeah, that must be it. But it's absolutely wrong. The joints will stay very, very healthy. We have many persons who are very active runners. We have marathon runners, age 70, 80, who don't, you would think wear off their joints. They're certainly moving the joints 10-fold, 50-fold, but many people will use their joints, yet their joints stay healthy. So the point is not wear and tear. This is a diversion. This is a myth.
When we speak about aging, we must also speak about how the brain ages. Dr. Eric Braverman in Princeton, New Jersey, has a center that specializes in mapping electronically the entire process of brain aging. Therefore, before any other symptoms, is able to see how old your brain really is and the kind of nutrients or protocol necessary to reverse premature aging. He's had some remarkable success, so let's visit him now.
This is a test, Brain Electrical Activity Map, or BEAM. It was first developed at Harvard Medical School. We've added some improvements to it to strengthen it and expand its ability to look at the brain's electrical activity or function. It's the most important test in America today because the most important set of problems that faces people is the aging of their brain, substance abuse, depression, anxiety, chronic fatigue, Lyme disease that affects the brain, hormonal imbalances that affect the brain, hypertension that affects the brain. There is no test available today that tells us as much about the brain's function than the BEAM test. So we say it's the BEAM that lights the path to wellness here at Path Medical because the BEAM test is your brain stress test. And we know there's something wrong with a lot of people's brains that we can't pick up on an ordinary EEG. We don't see anything wrong on an MRI. But when you do a brain electrical activity map, you get an instant window, a light into the brain on how the brain is aging and functioning. For example, on the initial EEG, we can see slowing, and that is one of the key markers of aging. We all know that people slow down with aging, but we actually have a computerized spectral analysis of this event. So individuals normally have a brain that beats 10 cycles per second. The normal heart will beat 1 beat per second. The brain is a much more intense and complex organ than the heart, and so a good rhythm of the brain is 10 cycles per second of alpha. As people age, they will drop down to 9 beats per second, 8 beats, 7 beats per second, and sometimes even slower. This is marked where we have alpha dropout and increased theta. We see this as a result of head trauma, substance abuse, Alzheimer's disease. In essence, you have aging of the brain with a loss of alpha waves and an increase in theta waves that can occur due to many things. Loss of circulation to the brain, drugs. People don't realize it, but when you're using cocaine or abusing alcohol or marijuana, what you're actually doing is prematurely aging your frontal and temporal lobes of the brain. When you have whiplash injuries, head trauma, premature aging of the brain is picked up on just this computerized spectral analysis. Individuals that have metabolic disorders of the brain affects their entire brain rhythm. So we now know, for example, that the PET scan, which tells us about metabolism of the brain, is correlated beautifully with abnormal beam test. So we know that the beam electrical abnormalities represent not just electrical rhythm disturbances, but loss of metabolism of neurotransmitters.
So let's start on what we know or suspect will cause us to age prematurely. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, basic household cleansers that vaporize, the toxic home syndrome, formaldehyde, asbestos, fluorescent lights, the electromagnetic pollution that comes off your portable digital clock, your television set, your VCR, your computer, your microwave oven, your electric blanket. The dashboard of your car gives off almost as much electromagnetic pulses negative to the system, to the hormones, to the chromosomes, to the genes, as a sleeping blanket, which is one of the worst, or a microwave oven. You should never be within 8 feet of a microwave oven when it's on. If you're going to use it, which I don't suggest, but if you do, turn it on and leave the room and come back when it's off. The electromagnetic grids that we live around, like overhead tension power lines, transmitting signals, the dishes that people use in their yards all over to pick up more television stations on their TV discs, cellular phones and beepers. All these things have electro or magnetic resonance, which is opposite what our body needs and will, in small measure, hurt us. The trouble is, none of this just kills you, but it all adds to the cumulative degeneration of our system, creating subtle, very subtle discrepancies in what should be normal biochemistry.
Today we're finding that the mercury is not sound. It doesn't just stay within the filling. It comes out and you inhale, it goes into the lungs, you eat, you swallow, it goes into the stomach, into the intestinal tract, and here it undergoes a process that's chemically called methylation, where mercury forms methyl mercury. And this is highly toxic. I mean, you know, cigarettes are not necessarily good for you. Alcohol is not necessarily good for you, but you have your choice. And if you go out and really hang one on and get drunk, the next day or two you'll sober up. Those fillings are still there 24 hours a day. The exposure rates that are quoted are for a 40-hour week in the workplace, and yet you're getting more than enough out of your fillings.
It's estimated that within the next 10 years, nearly half the American population will be over the age of 40. Now, for those of you who remember your parents being 40 and 50, and now you look in the mirror, do you look the same? Do you feel the same? More importantly, do you believe the same? Do you believe that arthritis, high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary heart disease, cancer are inevitable in the aging process? Our generation does not. And many individuals are taking the opportunity to prevent these very illnesses. One physician, also baby boomer, Dr. Richard Ash in New York City, is educating his patients and his radio audience about the use of one particular hormone. It's called the mother of hormones, DHEA. Let's visit him now and see what he has to say on the role the DHEA and other substances play in the aging process.
Well, DHEA is a key ingredient in terms of the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland has requirements of putting out cortisol and adrenaline, and when your body's under stress, it has higher demands of cortisol and adrenaline. Eventually get to the point where you deplete the precursors of those of cortisol and adrenaline, which is DHEA. And there's all sorts of consequences when DHEA becomes deplete in terms of immune mechanism and repair. I find many people have a deficient amount of DHEA as we age. Compared to someone at the age of 20 to someone at the age of 80, it actually goes down, and it's almost, you only have 1/20th the amount at the age of 80 as you do at the age of 20. And if there's any sort of chronic disease that one is suffering from, clearly you use up your DHEA and you reserve capacity for the immune system to defend itself. One of the first early signs of DHEA is you actually don't have the ability to get REM sleep. That's rapid eye movement sleep. If you don't get rapid eye movement sleep, you wind up not getting true rest, and you will suffer from insomnia, and you actually could get chronic fatigue, and you may go to a doctor who may give a sleeping medicine, which actually doesn't get at the cause of the problem. It just treats the symptoms. There's other things such as poor sugar regulation, hypoglycemic symptoms. When someone has a low DHEA, they wind up not being able to tolerate sugar in their diet. They have to eat more frequently because of low blood sugar, and the symptoms that are common with that are palpitations or sweating or confusion, apprehension, poor concentration, just not able to cope with the daily stress that one experiences each day.
The primary cause of the aging process has to do with something we call free radicals. Back in the early 1950s, Dr. Denham Harmon at the University of Nebraska first gave us the free radical theory of aging. And we now know that these things called free radicals really are the root cause of the aging process. Free radicals are electrically imbalanced molecules which at the cellular level do tremendous amounts of damage. Fortunately, we now know that nutrients called antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene, selenium, these substances are able to neutralize or squelch these free radicals and literally slow down and prevent the aging process.
This journey inside the human body takes us through a sea of oddly shaped objects and past living cells with their large centers or nuclei. Plunging into a single cell, we come upon several cigar-shaped mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell. Intertwined in the mitochondria's cristae or folds, we can just detect a fairly long strand of supercoiled DNA, the building block of life. From outside the mitochondria, we see the invading oxygen-free radicals zoom through the mitochondria's coiled DNA. This oxygen-free radical is a result of normal cell activity. Free radicals are associated with the negative effects of aging and age-associated diseases. As the free radical continues on its journey, we see the paired bases that are part of the DNA. The free radical hits one of the base pairs and severely damages it, distorting the entire DNA segment. The repair enzyme moves towards the site, biochemically repairing the damaged material and returning the DNA to its original shape. Moving back out of the body, we pass through the cell's supercoiled DNA, the cigar-shaped mitochondria, out of the cell and the cell's jelly-like protoplasm to end our journey.
I have found over the years that we've had no way of properly knowing how to take vitamins and minerals. So I want to share with you now one of the most important things of my whole discussion on reversing the aging process. It's called the law of compensation, or the rule of compensation. It works this way. To the degree that you've done anything singularly or in multiple ways to hurt yourself, even inadvertently, you must compensate extra. So if you've smoked, if you've drank, if you've had caffeine or sugar or meat or pesticides, if you've been an angry person and held it in, if you've been unfulfilled in your work and unfulfilled in your life, if you're not honoring your own life force, if you are let's say a person doesn't exercise or hasn't exercised, all of these keep bringing your immune system down. Now here's the irony. Medicine is on absolutely, there's some place in the medieval ages when it comes to understanding health, because their idea is health is the absence of disease. Well, are you talking about classically defined disease? Only when you have a classical symptom, then you are sick? That's their notion. So if you don't manifest classical symptoms of disease, then you're well. And then they say, well, whatever disease symptom you showed, you only have a single disease. I say that's all nonsense. I say there is no such thing as a wellness model in our society. Therefore, we have to create one.
The program for aging, anti-aging for every individual is got to be individualized based on their particular brain mapping results, their particular attention span, their particular memory problems, their particular hormone and nutritional imbalances, their particular cardiac and exercise capacity. So total aging requires all of those factors in virtually every individual trying to reverse the aging of their brain. They need to be hormonally correct. We find the natural yam extract estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. We call it PET. PETs are good for your health. Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, all natural, is essential for women who want to slow the aging process. They get the anti-cancer properties from progesterone, the calming of the brain from the progesterone. With the estrogen, they get the strengthening of their bones. They get the improvement of their memory. They get the cardiovascular protection effects. They even get anti-cancer effects from estrogen in the colon and other parts of the body. With testosterone, they get strengthening of the bones and a continued sex drive into their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Also, testosterone will reduce side effects of the other natural hormones. So it's really important to take all three together. The ovary makes at least 3 hormones, and when the ovary dies, you must resurrect it. If you permit your organs to die, then you're permitting yourself to die. All right, so we know that we have to stop this dying process if you want abundant life, and so we stop the ovary or replace the ovary with the PET, we replace the adrenal with the DHEA.
I think what happens is when you do become deficient of DHEA, you have a lower, what we call salivary IgA, which is an immune type of molecule that's in the mucosal lining of the GI tract. And when that becomes depleted or deficient, we wind up getting antigen penetration, food and chemical sensitivity reactions in the GI tract. We actually get an inflammation of the GI tract, as one may know about it in terms of leaky gut, but certain foods and molecules that should not be entering the GI tract get absorbed into the system, and the body starts to react against them and then defend itself against them, and that's one of the causes of autoimmune disease. Where does autoimmune disease? Many of them is related to food and chemical sensitivity. Way to replace it is to restore your GI tract and actually to decrease the toxic load, administer DHEA, bring up your salivary IgA, and start to develop an intact immune system and mucosal lining of the GI tract. Many times people have been all over the place and they really haven't gotten to the cause of the symptoms, the cause of their problems, and they're just being treated for the symptoms. And I find that many people will have a lower DHEA, and that's the only time they actually would get better is when you replace the DHEA. Some of the people that have been refractory to treatment with the administration of DHEA and decreasing their toxic load has been the best way to take care of them.
There's a new area of science which is very exciting called cognitive enhancing drugs and nutrients. And these are substances that can enhance intelligence, memory, learning, and recall capabilities, and at the same time they can slow down and prevent brain aging and senility. Part of it helps you to get smarter, but more importantly it helps you not to get dumber. Don't lose what you've got. One of these substances, hydrogene, is a prescription drug in the United States. It's available as a 1 milligram tablet in the United States. In the rest of the world, it's available as a 4.5 or a 5 milligram tablet. The higher strengths of hydrogene are very effective at enhancing cognition in elderly people. So people with senility have gotten help with this. There are now substantial studies that show that hydrogene causes improvements in learning and memory and recall in healthy young adults. It increases and enhances the neural pathways and the electrical energy flow in the brain tissue. Another drug that's very exciting on the cognitive enhancing arena is piracetam. Piracetam, unfortunately, is not available in the United States. However, it's available in over 85 countries around the world. It can be ordered from overseas mail order companies. And piracetam, in addition to being able to prevent brain aging from a lack of oxygen and to be able to enhance intelligence and memory and learning, piracetam does something extremely fascinating. It causes an increased flow of electrical information between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It's called superconnecting both halves of the brain. And they now know that this improves cognition and also creativity. I get cards and letters from people who are writers and singers and musicians, and this group of people say that it can unlock writer's block and improve their creative flow. Dyslexia is a learning disorder that is effectively treated with piracetam. So there's a whole new area of piracetam and piracetam-like drugs that are being researched by the pharmaceutical industry now. One other cognitive enhancing drug that's very exciting is called Lucidril. What a cute name, Lucidril, to be more lucid. And Lucidril is available in foreign countries, but not yet in the United States. In addition to increasing lifespan in experimental animals and enhancing memory and learning capabilities, Lucidril has been shown to actually reverse some of the aspects of brain aging. Other things we've talked about can slow down and prevent brain aging, but Lucidril actually reverses one of the main aspects of brain aging, which is the buildup of lipofuscin or cellular garbage in the brain cells over time. And taking Lucidril in elderly laboratory animals actually reverses the state of the brain of these animals to that of teenage animals. So there's a tremendous capability here for drugs to start to reverse the brain aging process.
We like to know by testing which trace elements, which fatty acids, which amino acids, and which vitamins, the four main groups of nutrients, are imbalanced. There are some certain principles of aging. Nutrients are lost with aging. For example, choline is malabsorbed in aging of the brain. So choline is a very important nutrient. Amino acids like tyrosine and phenylalanine frequently is poorly absorbed and deficient in aging. Tryptophan is frequently deficient in aging. N-acetylcysteine or glutathione or cysteine and antioxidants are also lost with aging. So those are some of your core nutrients, along with, of course, vitamin E and borage oil and chromium and zinc. We like zinc because the accumulation of heavy metals occurs with aging. So aluminum, lead build up in your system and prematurely age your brain. You can take those metals out with chelation. You can also take them out naturally with nutrients like vitamin C and zinc. So those are some of the cornerstones of a nutritional program in the aged individual, but a really proper way to deal with each person's aging and nutritional status is to get the nutritional testing.
I hope you enjoyed today's program. Next week we'll be back sharing more on reversing the aging process. Until then, I'm Gary Null. Have a nice week, everyone.